This is a truly NFL draft podcast. I'm Daniel Garrett. With me is Mitch Wolfe. Mitch, how you doing today?
Doing well. This is an interesting group that we're talking about today. Interior defensive linemen. Not the best class in my opinion, and I think part of that is due to last year's class being exceptionally deep. A lot of good players, most of whom were uh, upperclassmen. So you're seeing a lot of underclassmen who were kind of in rotational roles, and you kind of have to project them forward. And some of them are even still older players; they just haven't been able to get on the field as much. Um, but I don't think you're going to see this group have. I think it was 9 defensive tackles go in the first 2 rounds, and then 12 in the first 3, and somewhere in like the high 20s in the entire draft. So I don't really see this group being that good, being that deep. I think you have the chance for a few players to really rise up and be high picks, but I think the depth of the class is just not there.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Like, there's a lot of guys where I feel like are kind of bunched together, but they're not bunched together super highly in the class. They're bunched
Mm-mm.
together in that like third, fourth round range. We
Yep,
don't have
I
a whole
totally
lot
agree.
of like early day two guys
Yeah,
right now. I see a lot of guys that are like a couple at the top, and then it's a lot of just later on day two into day
yeah,
three.
yeah. I
Um,
feel like last year you could have had like 15 guys go in the top 100, and this year I feel like it's close to like 10, and maybe not even that.
yeah, yeah. I got 11 guys that I have as like possible. Let's call it 12 that I think have a real possibility of being like day two guys.
All right, so I want to start. So we're only going to do 10 guys with this ranking, but I do want to ask you if there's anybody who didn't make your top 10 that either going into it you thought was going to be better, but then disappointed you, or a guy you didn't really know much about and ended up surprising you in a positive way, or anything like that. Outside of the top 10, we'll just talk about one each.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's I would have to say probably James Smith. Limited snaps there at Bama this past year. He's the projected starter next to Tim Keenan, and a little bit on the skinny side, but I like his versatility, able to kick out to be a 4-eye, able to play 3 tech. Like I said, a little bit on that skinny side there, which is a common thing with some of these guys in this
Mhm.
class. Um, but I was impressed. I liked him. I think he needs another year after this. I think he's more of a 2027 guy, to be
Okay.
honest with you. But I think he has potential, and I think he has a lot of good athletic traits where it's definitely interesting.
Yeah, he's not a guy I got to, but I do agree with you. There's a lot of those tweener types, like the 4-eye to 5 techs that, especially with so many teams running like the 3-3-5 odd front, tight mid front stuff. There's so many where you're
Yeah.
like, and a lot of them I was watching today just to catch up, and I was like, these guys, I just don't like them like at all. Like I watched Tyler Onyedim, who's transferred from Iowa State to Texas A&M, and I was just like, man, this is rough. So he's not the
Well,
guy who. Go ahead.
yeah, I didn't even get to the A&M guys either that were I know
I think
some
there's
people like them.
one. Yeah, I think there's another. What's his name? Albert Regis, who's played a little bit. So I think he might be something that I can get to him. I'm gonna technically sneak in two here. But one guy outside who I kind of just found funny, Aaron Graves from Iowa, and I found him funny just because I thought he was the most like stereotypical Iowa prospect. So I'm just gonna read some stuff from his bio because it's very funny. So he earned his associate degree in high school from Iowa Central Community College, and then he already graduated with his Bachelor of Science in Exercise Science with the highest distinction, and he's going into his senior year, and he's already enrolled in their master's program for sport and recreation management. He in high school he also competed in basketball, wrestling, and track. He completed his high school career as the school's all-time leading scorer with 1,356 career points, averaging 22 and 9 as a senior. He placed fourth in state wrestling as a junior and senior as a heavyweight with a 28 and 3 record. He holds his school record in shot put 52-2 and placed fifth at state championships as senior. So just like, super smart guy who has played every game so far for Iowa this past year. He finally got elevated to being a starter. 6'4", 300, mostly plays, I think they call it left defensive tackle. That's mostly in their B gap, in their 4-3 scheme. I
Yeah.
really wanted to like him just reading his bio, but it just didn't really click, in my opinion. I thought he was a very linear athlete. Like once his burst was surprising. Once he gets going, it's good, but just not a lot of lateral movement and change of direction was a bit of an issue. Um, and there were times where I thought he was getting run over a little bit in the run game, and he's not that big, so it kind of makes sense. But I'm also like, you're pretty well
Yeah,
rounded.
because
Like
he's what, listed at 300.
yeah, yeah, and like you're pretty well rounded, but I don't know, nothing really jumped out at me except for like he plays really hard. I think he won. It said he won Iowa's like Team Hustle Award, which at Iowa I would say that's a pretty prestigious award. So he
Yeah,
was 13th for me in this group. I had him as a early day 3 guy. Um, I think he's interesting, and I wonder if he can elevate a little bit this year, maybe get some more production. But he was somebody interesting to me. I do want to ask as we transition to the top 10. Did you have Bear Alexander in your top 10?
no, I
Okay,
did not.
okay, I didn't either, but I'm very interested in him. Obviously, like he's the
Oh, he
super high.
has all the tools.
Yes, exactly. Like all the
Like, there's a
traits.
reason he was so highly rated.
Yeah, I mean, but what he played in 4 high schools in 4 years, and then he's on his 3rd school already after getting benched at USC essentially. So again, I feel like if he can put it together this year and play hard for Oregon, then I'll be in. But right now, it's just like I just can't take that risk. Like I have him evaluated and rated very similar to guys like Graves. But it's just it's a huge gap between like if he is not locked in, then it's just like there's no point because he's not going to do anything. But if he is, then it's like okay, maybe we can take flyer on this. I think he's gonna be a redshirt junior this year, so he's still pretty young. I'll be interested to see if he does have a big year. Does he declare or does he try to come back and get some more NIL money? That'll be an interesting story to track for him this year. But he did not make my top 10. He was close though. All right. Why don't you start with your number 10 interior defensive lineman?
Aaron Graves.
Okay, there we go.
I mean, honestly, a lot of what you said rings true with him. It's a lighter guy. I thought he had a great first step.
hmm
And I like when I'm, at that range, your turn of the third, fourth round, your borderline top 100 guy is what
hmm
that would be where his grade would be out for me, borderline top 100 overall player. If you can find that singular trait that you can look at and you can use, I really value that, have being good at something. Um, but like you said, it's a well-rounded player overall, a hard worker, lacks a little bit of strength in the run game, doesn't have a great pop with his hands, but overall, it's just a okay player. And in this class, that's at 10 for me. It's not anything I would want to be a starter for me.
hmm
I think I think his future is as a rotational tackle in the
Yeah.
NFL. But for me, that's 10th in this class. We're
hmm
getting into rotational rushers. Honestly, for a lot of the back half of this top 10, it's just what this class is.
Yeah, I think the hand use is interesting because I agree with you that his strikes aren't super powerful, but he works
Yeah.
like he works hard. Like he
Yes.
is very active in getting disengaged from the block, which is valuable. So I think we see him pretty similarly. You know, probably would have him pretty close together on a big board. My number 10 is David Gusta, who is a transfer from Washington State to Kentucky, and he has a piece. He profiles pretty similarly to Aaron Graves. He's 6'3", 316. He's going to his redshirt senior year. He plays a lot of different alignments, plays a lot of different positions, has to do a lot. Actually, I'm sorry, I forgot this. I want to go back to Graves. Do you think he would be better served being in a 3-4 as a defensive end, as like a 4-5?
Yes.
Okay, I
Yes.
thought so too. All right, sorry. Back to Gusta.
Yeah. I have honestly, I have 3 players in my top 10 that I think are better off as 3-4 DNs.
Okay, all right, okay. So with Gusta, it's kind of a similar story. Everything is solid. There's not much that's good or above. He's an older player. He's not super big. I'm very interested to see what his play does. That he's moving from the quote unquote the Pac-12, which was basically a Mountain West schedule for Washington State last year, going to the SEC. But he's a pretty good athlete. He's decently strong. I think he plays very hard. He has good hands. He's got similar hands to Graves, maybe a little more pop. But again, it's playing against most of the Mountain West competition, so you take it with a grain of salt. But I think he's somebody that if he continues the level of his play that he was doing against that competition, is playing similarly against the SEC. This is a guy you could see. I have him again, late 3, early 4, who could maybe solidify himself as a third round pick. I kind of take that Darius Alexander path from last year, defensive tackle from Toledo, where he has a good year. He was still at Toledo, but rises up later in the process and becomes a top 75 pick. So David Gusta from previously Washington State, now at Kentucky. So he was my 10. And then who's your number 9?
My number nine's I assume you'll have him a little bit higher if I had to guess. Daryl Jackson Jr.
I
From
did not
Florida
watch him
State.
actually.
Oh, okay. Um, I mean, overall, let me look at my notes on him here. I mean, I feel like he's a pretty solid player. I like the athleticism. I thought he had pretty good length. I thought he had above average pop in his hands for this class. I thought his strength was pretty good. I think he translates as a three tech at the next level.
Oh,
I
he's gonna be. Oh, I didn't realize he's actually gonna be redshirt senior this year. I thought he was younger.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a guy where I
Okay.
just like the overall package. I don't really think there's any one trait that stands out. I
Yeah,
wish he was
that's a miss for me.
slightly more loose, slightly more flexible, but really I don't see any major deficiencies, and that's why I'm okay with him being here. The kind of the opposite of what I said with Graves, where you don't have that one trait that stands out, but you also don't have the weaknesses like Graves has, where you're not really lacking for strength with Jackson. It's just a good, solid overall player. And I know the Florida State team um, had a lot of issues with
hmm
effort during the
hmm
last year, but I didn't think that Jackson was consistently giving bad effort. So I thought of the players at Florida State, he was giving some the better effort. Not that he was like giving some exceptional effort, but I thought of the ones there, he was at least doing his job on a pretty consistent basis. Not going out like not chasing down a whole lot of people. He did in
Well, I
week
mean,
one.
you're
In
six.
week one, he was chasing down some people in week one, but later on in the year,
Yeah, I
didn't
mean,
see that as much, but yeah.
when you're 6'5", 337, I'm not gonna like ding you too much for not going out trying to go get the jet sweep once
Yeah.
it's once it's already to the
And
numbers.
he
Like,
he looks good. Like he is very well put together. You do
mm,
not notice that there's a guy later, just my next guy's Corleone. He isn't built like
uh,
that. He's built very well. He's put
yeah.
together the right way. This is exactly what you want your defensive tackles to look like. It's just I don't really see the exceptional trait with him. If he had that exceptional trait, I'd be a lot more comfortable moving him way up the board. But I just don't really see the exceptional trait right now. I honestly think that this is a guy who, with a good season, could fly up the board ahead of a lot of these guys. Like honestly, the only one like I could see him flying into top 5 of this class
Mm.
with a good year.
I mean,
Um,
he was a
but
really
it's
highly ranked recruit, if I remember correctly. So that makes sense that he's got this pedigree. So even though he's that big, you didn't like necessarily think play strength or run defense was like an overwhelming positive.
yeah, an overwhelming positive.
Hmm.
I thought it was good, not exceptional.
Okay.
Like if I'm looking at like where he played, like if you look, I don't think he lined up a whole lot at like a true nose tackle. Yeah, like 43 snaps as a nose. If you include off like a one tech, you add
hmm
9 more. So it like most of his snaps are coming as a three tech there.
hmm
And there's a reason why. It's because his strength isn't exceptional for being a nose. He does have good strength for a three tech. It's just a matter of what you want to do with a guy that weight. You would typically want him playing one tech, but he just doesn't because his strength is above average
hmm
for a defensive tackle. But it's not. He's not holding up as a nose or probably even a shade nose.
Okay.
I mean, as a
That's
pass rusher, sure, third down, throw him in as a one tech on third down. But
mhm.
on first and second down, I would want him out at three tech, even though he is that big.
Okay. All right. I'll see if I can get some eyes on him later this summer. All right. So my number 9 is Dominique Orange. who's the defensive lineman from Iowa State. He's going to be a senior. He's 6'4", 325. Uh, kind of conversely to what you said about Jackson, his body is a little sloppy. He doesn't carry that 325 as well, but he is surprisingly nimble for his size. And I actually thought a lot of his reps at end were better than his reps at nose playing for Iowa State, who again runs that 3-3-5 defense. His pass rush really improved later in the year. He gets off the ball a good bit quicker and more easily than you would expect for a guy of that size. He can look pretty good in line games, actually, as like the looper or the not just the guy crashing into the line. Like he can do some stuff with that, which is nice. The problem is that he's not as good in run defense as you would want for a guy with that size. Like you're probably just not going to put a 6'4", 325 guy out there on passing downs, even though he is a little more athletic. But he's a good tackler. He plays hard, shows good effort. I did think his biggest issue was he struggles to disengage from blockers in the run game. So I think if you get him in the right scheme where he just needs to eat the blocks, which is kind of Iowa State, but it's like just eat these two blocks and let the linebackers make the play, that could work. But I'd be interested to see what he does this year because again, that scheme is weird. It's kind of hard to evaluate the guys sometimes. But Dominique Orridge is my number 9 again, late 3, early 4, and this is after going higher from him. I would say there's a pretty big tier break for me, and we're going to start getting into guys that I would say are confidently like 3rd round picks, and then as we get higher, moving into the 2nd and 1st round.
Yeah, I have him a little bit higher on this
Okay.
list. I have him at 6.
Okay.
Like I like him a little bit more. I actually am comfortable with him as a nose.
Okay.
Prefer him as I mean, I don't want him as a 3 down front, like true
Sure.
0 tech nose. But I'm fine with him as a 1 tech.
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to see more of him. Like, and I think he's a bit of a head scratcher for me where it's like, I don't know exactly where to play you and where you're best. And again, it's hard to translate coming out of those kind of schemes sometimes. So I'm not sure exactly what to do with him right now.
Yeah, I can get that. It's definitely that for me. I kind of feel like 5, 6 to 10, 6 to 11 are all just kind of jumbled together where I don't really care what order you
Yeah,
throw them
that's
in.
fair. Yeah.
And moving on to 8 for me is
Mhm.
Dante Corleone from Cincinnati.
He's 7 for me, so I think we see him pretty similarly.
Yeah, I mean, it's a sloppy body there. It is not what you want. But I thought he was a good run defender. Thought he had
Mm-hmm.
good pop with his hands. Not the best in this class, but definitely up there for the best pop with his hands.
Yes.
But my issue with him is, can you keep him at that? I don't want him playing 3 tech. I want him playing 1 tech.
Yeah.
Can I get him to drop so I can't drop him weight wise, but I want to drop some of the fat.
Well, so I do wonder how much of that came from him having to take that time off for the blood clots.
Yes, because
So
he missed most of 23, right?
well, so I thought he did too, but he had more snaps on his ledger than I thought. Like it says he played. So this past year it says he played 445, and then in 2023 it says 440.
498.
Okay. So and he said it looks
I
like he
include
started.
special teams.
Oh,
So.
okay. It looks like he started every game in 2023 as well. I think it was mostly during the offseason. They were like concerned as to if it was going to affect him coming back, which I don't know if it like he was able to play, obviously. I think you could fairly question like, okay, like how good is his conditioning right now?
Yeah.
You've also seen again, take this with a grain of salt, but his PFF grades have dropped a good bit each of the last since his first year as a starter in 2022. I think part of that is in 2023, Cincinnati jumps up to the Big 12 from the AAC. They lose a lot of talent in the portal and going to the draft. So that's part of the reason. So I think, that's something to track, and that'll obviously affect his draft stock. We've seen that happen with guys like Maurice Hurst, who I think he fell to the day 3. I think he still got drafted if I remember correctly. But yeah, I liked him a good bit. I was worried about I think with him, it's just like there isn't a ton of pursuit range. Like he does have to play nose tackle, and you're not, and he just doesn't cover a lot of ground when he's running. He has like a good like short burst turbo kind of thing, but it runs out very quickly. And I agree with you. I like the hands with power and activity. A bit better of a, again, in short bursts, a bit better of an athlete than you would expect. But once he starts having to run in space, it's a big problem. So I think you definitely want to see him in a odd front defense, a 3-4, where he can just be a nose and clog the A gaps.
Yeah, I if you're a 4 down front, I think you can get away with him as a 1 tech,
Mm-hmm.
but it's definitely not preferred. Yeah, I mean, again, it's a for me, this is a late third, early fourth type of guy. I don't know if that's where you are with him.
So he and my number 8 are graded the same, and they're both like, I would say like mid to early round 3. Um,
Okay.
and that's mostly just because like my grading system is a little. I'm going to try to work on it to change it a bit, because there are some traits that are probably more valued than they need to be. That I evaluate with defensive tackle, and with him and my number 8, they're kind of role specific, but I think my method does it. It tries to not ding them too much for not being able to do 3 tech stuff, but maybe it should. So I'll say my number 8, who is again tied with Corleone, is Tim Keenan from Alabama. Their nose tackle,
Okay.
6'2", 325, redshirt senior. Really just your classic nose tackle. He is great at defending the run, great at clogging up the A gaps, does not really offer much outside of that in terms of pass rush. And he's a bigger dude. He is built a bit better than Corleone, but they're pretty similarly built. And yeah, Keenan just he's a classic nose tackle. There's not a lot special or like unique to his game, I would say. So, but if you're a team that does need that kind of player, like a team kind of like Jamari Caldwell from Oregon last year, who just pure nose, need him stop, or who's the Jordan Phillips, the Maryland nose tackle, who had like no pass rush
Yeah.
production. Yeah, that's the
Yes.
kind of player I see, and some teams need that, and that can be valuable. And it's where it's like you can technically be a starter in an odd front 3-4 defense, but you're probably going to get rotated out on passing down. So I can see him being a starter, quote unquote, in the right system.
Yeah. Yeah, that's about where I am at with them. It's a good player. I have him a little bit higher, but that's just because of me not loving the class. With Keenan, I have a late second, early third on
Okay,
him.
that's
Um,
we're
but
still pretty
that's
close then. But
yeah,
yeah,
it's higher number wise, but in terms of where you're at in terms of the draft, it's like for me, he's 4.
okay,
But 4 for me is still in that same range where you have 7.
yeah,
So
yeah. So maybe I actually like this class
um,
more than you, which is interesting because I led off by saying how much I didn't like it.
yeah, for me, my number 7 is Christian Miller from Georgia.
Okay, so
Um,
he's 4 for me. So, but again, I think we
yeah,
see him
so
pretty similarly in terms of range.
yes, yeah, this is late third round for me.
Mm,
Honestly, with him, a lot of it was just outside of the run defense. I didn't see a lot that I loved. Um,
that's fair.
I think he can. I think he can be a very good 2 down player as a 3 tech. But
Hmm.
I think most teams are going to want to bring him off the field uh, when it gets into obvious passing situations. Um, and for me, that's just a guy that I don't think is valuable enough to pick in the top 75.
Hmm.
If you're only going to be a first and second down player, I don't really think, unless you're just absolutely dominant, I don't think I can really afford to draft you in the top 75.
Yeah,
Um,
I would say I generally agree with that sentiment. Um, that said, like I said, I have him 4th, and I agree with you. I really do like the run defense stuff. It's maybe not as dominant as a guy like Keenan, or maybe even a guy like Corleone. The problem with Miller is I think it's all there to be a very good pass rusher. I think that he has the athletic ability, the hand skills. Um, when I wrote my stuff for him, I wrote that he has the best first second of almost every rep in this class, with his initial burst and then his hand usage. with the strike of his first hit. But then after that, it kind of falls off. He doesn't really have a way to get out of blocks, especially as a pass rusher, which was a little weird. It was also funny watching him next to guys like Nazir Stackhouse, Warren Brinson, and even Tyrion Ingram Dawkins, in that his lower half is a lot thinner than theirs. Even Ingram Dawkins, who is like 30 pounds lighter. And I was like, that's a little concerning. But I think with him, because of now he's kind of the guy on the Georgia line, I wonder if they'll try to find ways to feature him a little more where he can be a more productive pass rusher. So I think the potential is there. But I do see that it's kind of, it's harder to find. There aren't as many, reps where it's like, oh, there it is. So I get having him a little lower. But I think he's somebody who is going to rise a good bit in this process.
Yeah, and honestly, like I don't really see there being this massive drop off among the Georgia defensive line losing Stackhouse because I like Jordan Hall. I think he's going to
Mm-hmm.
be a very good nose tackle to throw next to Miller.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really think you're getting a massive drop off. I just think you're getting younger. So I think that he's going to be able to produce at the same level, not have to have a more significant role, but able to if he can earn that spot. Just because, like I said, I know they lost another one of their younger guys to USC, transferred
It's
out, but
yeah. I want to say it's like Jamari Walker, but I don't think that's right.
I know it starts with a J.
Yeah, I knew it was. Or is it Jamari? Well, there's another one, Jamari Silver, but I think he's the one who went from Kentucky to USC.
It is Jamal Jarrett.
Jamal Jarrett. Okay. Yeah.
But
Okay.
yeah, honestly, it's a guy where with him, I don't think that there's going to have to be this massive role increase. I like their younger guys. I think that's why Jarrett transferred out, because a lot of their younger guys I do like. I think it's going to be a still very good, very productive interior defensive line for Georgia, like it always is. And I
Mm-hmm.
think yes, he has a chance to be the best player on it, but I don't think it's even a guarantee. I think more likely than not, he's going to be,
Mm-hmm.
but I think there's a chance one of these younger guys does step up, just
Okay.
because like it's Georgia. They've been recruiting so well that I wouldn't be shocked if
Yeah.
one of their guys like a Hall steps up and becomes the dude.
Yeah. Okay. So he was your 7.
Correct. Yep.
I'll do my 6 now. And I imagine you're not going to like this because it's Caleb Banks from Florida. I was very confused by this player. He's 6'6", 329, but because they had Desmond Watson and Cameron Jackson at the nose, he had to play 3 tech. And again, I kind of thought a lot of his best reps were basically as an edge. He moves pretty well for his size, but I also thought his pass rush ability was inconsistent. He got better later in the year, which is nice. But he's just a very inconsistent player. Like a lot of times, he's just not really fighting to get off blocks quickly. So, but sometimes he is. It's like, okay, that's great. Let's see that every time, and it's just not happening. And I think you saw his pressures and ability to be a good pass rusher were really siloed into like a few games and then the other ones he just wasn't productive at all. So I have him again, like kind of in that late 2, early 3 range because I just don't really know what to do with him. I think there are flashes there where it kind of reminds me of another Florida guy of Carlos Dunlap, but again, that's a guy who was playing closer to 300 and was playing more end, and I think maybe that's where he's most comfortable, and they're just playing him kind of out of position.
I have him higher. I might want to save my thoughts.
That's fair.
So that was your 6 or 7?
That was my 6.
My 6 is Dominic Orange. We already talked about
Okay.
him a little bit. I gave my thoughts at the time. So
Okay.
yeah, again, good nose. I like him a lot as a nose. I personally am more comfortable with him there. We already talked about it though, so we can
Yeah.
move on to our top 5s.
Yeah. So let's you give me your number 5 because I was talking a lot for these guys. So
Rayshon Benny.
he was 11th for me. I did not like him at all. but go ahead.
Yeah, this is a pure, pure swing. This
Okay.
is I see an athlete. I'm going to take a chance on said athlete in a class where I think it lacks high end potential. Like I said, for me, 4 through honestly like 11 are all third round guys.
Okay.
Like I could see late two, but I'm more in the third round guy. I think that this is a third round player. Uh, and I think it's one of those where I don't really see him ever going in the third round. I think this is either a guy that is good enough to get up into day two, or he's bad enough where he goes back. It's a pure athletic, uh, just swing here.
Hmm.
It's I liked his lateral mobility. I honestly would prefer him as a 4-eye.
That's what
That's
I
where I
wrote.
think his preferred
I wrote that down
spot
in my
is.
notes, wondering if that would be better for him. The
Yeah,
problem
it's
the problem with that for me is I guess I didn't really make a lot of notes about the lateral movement, but what I did note was the complete lack of burst off the line. I thought like almost every rep he's the last guy off the ball on the defensive and offensive line, and I'm just like this. And he's 6'4", 296, so he's not that big. I saw him lose a good bit in the run game, just not really getting off blocks. He's lean and muscular, but it doesn't. I don't know. It wasn't working, you know. And obviously he's coming on the field more on pass rush situations because they have Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant to handle early down duties. But I just was not a fan. Um, I was wondering, it's like, do we have him drop 10 to 15 pounds and play end, or do we just try to bulk him up and say, okay, he doesn't have any burst anyways, let's just play him at nose and get him to 320 or something. But then that still, like, he doesn't really defend the run that well, I thought. So I just didn't know what to do with him, and I didn't think there was a lot of athletic ceiling there. So I disagree there, but we have those. It's
yeah,
good to have those moments.
yeah. I again in terms of like athletic ceiling, I don't think this is a guy who's a good enough athlete to ever be like a first round pick. I think what he is he's a good um if he 4-eye.
Okay.
That's kind of just where I'm at. I think if you're a starting defensive lineman, that's a second round pick, and I think he has the potential to be there. I think there's also a chance that he's a complete bust and
Yeah.
has to
That
go back to
that
school. I
That's what
really,
I'm leaning. That's what I'm leaning towards, just because I don't really see an overly dominant trait, and like the burst is just such a big thing where it's like if you're getting off the ball slow in college and guys are getting on top of you, like it's going to be magnitude. You know, magnitude's worse in the NFL. So that's just very concerning for me when I was watching his tape. And he was somebody that I was like, oh, this is a Michigan guy. Like, he should be good. Like, this guy's probably be top 5 in my rank. He was 11th, so did not barely missed out on the top 10. He's actually tied with Gusta, so I will say he was close, but I definitely liked Gusta's tape way more than his. So
yeah. Now, and I'll be completely honest here. Um, the guy I brought up that I said I thought was a 2027 guy, James Smith.
mhm,
I honestly think there's just he's slightly more um prepared for the next level. And
mhm,
that's the difference between him making my top 10 and him not. I think if there's even if he's even a slightly worse player than what I think, he has to go back to school, which is why I did not have James Smith in this top 10. I see them as fairly similar this year, one's not. Like there's a chance that this is a guy that falls out of my top 15 if he
mhm.
doesn't have if he doesn't make the step up that I am expecting. Like there's a very
As
real chance he falls.
I will say, as far as I can tell, I think Rayshon Benny is a redshirt senior. So I think it's do or die at this point. Yeah, because
Okay, I don't know why I thought he was a redshirt
no,
junior.
he's
So
he
I must have that wrong.
redshirted in 21. So redshirt freshman, redshirt sophomore, redshirt junior. Yeah, so he's a redshirt senior this year. So
Okay,
it's go time. It's got to happen.
yeah, then yes, yeah, but no, there's a very small difference between him and a guy like James Smith, and that difference is I think he is a little bit more technically prepared. It's not he's not there,
Hmm.
not at all, but I think he's closer to being there.
Yeah.
And I'm just trusting that with a what I think is a good enough to play in the NFL as a 4I athlete. Um, that Michigan's coaching staff can get him there.
Okay.
Who's your number 5?
I'm not sure if you watched this guy, and he was initially pretty low on mine, but he jumped up, and it's Demonte Capehart from Clemson. Okay, I'm gonna tell you,
I did
he's
actually. Yes,
okay.
he
Okay,
barely missed out.
okay. I really, really, really like this guy. He's 6'5", 315. He is going into his 6th year. As far as I can tell, he hasn't missed time from injuries. I feel like that's very unlikely, but there wasn't really any mention of that on his bio. He just hasn't played a lot. He only has 545 career snaps. Um, Almost half of those came this past year, where he was started. Looks like he started the season as the starting nose tackle, then missed some time later in the year due to injuries. Um, but if you just go watch him versus Georgia and watch him versus Texas, which are the best teams that Clemson played this year, and he was routinely dominating their interior offensive line. And for Georgia, that's 3 guys who were drafted. I think they were all on day 3. No, one of them was. I think Majors was a not Majors. Jared Wilson was day 2, and then Dylan Fairchild and Tate Ratledge were all draft picks, and he was having his way with them. And against Texas, he was absolutely demolishing Jake Majors. And I don't think Jake Majors got drafted, but he's with the Buccaneers. Like, he's probably going to make the team. And he just has a ton of power. I feel like he has a decent burst for his size. I think he's one of the few like nose tackles in his class that can actually do a bull rush, where it's not just like, okay, I'm running into you and kind of push you. Like, it is actually, I'm getting out of my stance and pushing you backwards to get to the quarterback. Now, because he hasn't played that much, he doesn't have a ton of just pass rush acumen in terms of moves or anything, which most nose tackles, you're not going to have that. But
Yeah.
with consistently good power profile, I was very impressed by him. And obviously, with his size, he is just a real issue to deal with against the run. He gets knocked to the ground a bit, but it was almost always if there was a double team or like a puller or some kind of angle block where he like is already engaged and doesn't see the second guy coming. So I was kind of okay with that. Also, big dude, he's not going to, pursue sideline to sideline that well. There's some times where guys are going to outrun him. It's fine, but he does give good effort. I think the reason why he just wasn't playing much just because Clemson has, like Georgia, just has those waves of dudes, and it's just hard to get on the field. And he's getting on the field now. Now he's super experienced. He's super physically mature, but he is just dominating guys. So I think he's a sleeper in this class, and I think he's somebody that is going to be in the NFL for a long time.
Yeah, I had him lower. I will openly admit this could be a scenario of where I'm counting something too much, and that's his hand usage. I could be dinging him too much for it. It's very much a possibility. Because there's a lot of guys that I didn't like their hand usage that are above him, but I just thought it was worse than theirs. So I
Mm-hmm.
did have him even
Okay.
lower, and it could be something where I'm digging that too much because I agree with a lot of the points you had. It's just I'm digging him a lot for that hand usage.
I think what I'm hoping for him with that is that this kind of, now that he's had, he's played a good bit more the last 2 years, he's kind of just relying on his physical traits now. And maybe in his final year, he says, okay, now I know I need to like up my game a bit, and that's somewhere I can improve. And even if it's kind of the same and he's still decently productive, then he gets the NFL, maybe an NFL defensive line coach can bring that out of him. Again, like I have him as a day 2, maybe even round 2 pick if that does click. But I just really liked him, and I hope he gets to play a lot more. And because of Clemson's defensive structure and their depth, like he doesn't get a lot of those like pass rush opportunities on third downs where I think they really just put Peter Woods out there and like 5 linebackers and just rush them. So he doesn't see a lot of those good opportunities, which is a shame, but he can really, really push the pocket. So I liked.
Their defense is switching now, so hopefully
Mhm.
it's because they got what's his face from Penn State,
Oh,
Allen.
Tom Allen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
So
that'll be
it's
that'll be
a more
interesting.
traditional. They apparently Peter Woods is going to actually play defensive tackle for
Oh,
once.
thank God.
Um,
We'll get to him later.
yeah,
All right. So
yeah, but
K part was 5 for me. So who is your 5?
we already went over it. It was Benny.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Sorry, my bad.
my number 4 is Tim Keenan. Um,
Okay.
I just, I mean, we'll get to it later. I just think he's the best nose tackle in this class. Um, I don't think there's anything exceptional about him, to be honest with you.
Yep.
If I look at the reasons that I liked him, and this is a guy I have as a late second, um, maybe early third.
Hmm.
I really liked him as a run defender. I thought he had good pop with his hands, and I thought he displayed good strength. I thought he did a decent job of standing up to doubles. I thought he played with good effort. I It's a lot of the things I look for in a starting caliber nose. This is not a special player. This is never going to be a good pass rusher. This is a guy though where I think he can withstand being out on the field in passing downs. Like I
Hmm.
don't think you need to take him off. I just don't think he's good at it. I think this is your prototypical one tech. I I don't think this is gosh, what was his face from Baylor
Oh, Siaki
a
Ika?
few years ago? Yeah, don't think this is a guy where you have to play him as a nose. I think this is a guy who, in a four down front, can be your one tech. I think if you're a three down front, he can survive as a true nose, but I would rather just not have him do that. I'd rather him play in a four down front. Um, I think he's an okay athlete. I think if I had to pick anything to improve athletically, I think he's a can be a little bit stiff. Um, and I think that contributes to a lot of his pass rushing issues as well.
Hmm.
Um, but I'm fine with my number four guy in this class being a starter because
Hmm.
that's all I think he is. I think he's a starter. Like I said, I have him late second, early third. I
Yeah,
That's just where this class is.
I'm just a little lower because I slightly disagree. I just don't really think there is like any. Not that he's as bad as Ika, but I just don't really think there's any pass rush thing there. I think if you have to put him out there, then you're like you must be really thin at defensive tackle because I really don't think you want him out there relative to other players. But I agree with you. The floor for him of being a good starting nose tackle is definitely there. So my four was Kristen Miller, who we talked a lot about already. Um, so who was your number three?
Yeah, my number three is Zane Durant from Penn State.
He
I
is
know a
also
lot of people like him.
he's also my number three.
Okay. All right, so we can talk about them at the same time here. I must have not watched whoever your number two is then,
Yeah,
because I'm
I
trying
think
to.
I know that makes me know who your number two is, and I guess you didn't watch him, which is interesting.
Yeah,
But yeah,
so I think he's the best athlete in this class. I really enjoy watching him. I think he's a guy who has a lot of versatility. I think he can play three tech. I think if in a pinch he could play a four eye, but I don't love his length as much as some of the other guys. Where I would much prefer him to be a three tech.
hmm.
Um, I loved his lateral mobility.
Hmm.
Um, I thought he had good burst off the snap. I thought he
Yep,
had the best first step in this class. Um, I just
it was
really
close.
like this
Yeah,
player. Yeah,
yeah, it was close for me. It was
I
close
really like
with
this
him and
player.
Miller. Yeah, yeah, I agree with all that. I think with him, it's interesting to compare to a lot of the guys we talked about earlier in the episode, where Durant is the guy that is really, really good in a few things, and some things are pretty bad. And it's how do you weight that versus guys who are just kind of solid around across the board, nothing elite, nothing terrible. Um, with him, I think he is pretty typecast into being this three tech penetrating even front 4-3 defensive tackle. That's what he's best at. That's what he should play. The biggest thing for me with him, biggest problem, I suppose, is there are a lot of missed tackles. And I think it's just a lack of length thing where he just can't reach guys. He struggles a bit to get off. It's not as bad as the tackling, but he does struggle to get off blocks a bit to make the tackle. But the tackling in space is an issue. And when you're a penetrating defensive tackle, you really can't have that because you're getting into the backfield. And he does that pretty consistently. Gets in the backfield really well, and then he'll just like miss the ball carrier, and it's very frustrating because I think everything else, like you said, is really good. Like he does a better job of holding up against blocks than you would think for a guy who's 6'1", 295, and that's what he's listed at. It's probably a good bit smaller, but has a good amount of different kind of pass rush stuff he can do. But yeah, just the tackling is really concerning. Also, I thought he definitely wasn't as good against Ohio State, Oregon, Notre Dame. Like it was definitely like the jump up in competition clearly affected him. So it'll be interesting to see what he does this year, kind of when teams know who he is, and he doesn't really have Abdul Carter around to take attention away from him, even if they do have denied Dennis Sutton and LeVar Arrington Jr.
Yeah, it's definitely like you said, something where the tackles are an issue. I believe he had a 21% missed tackle percentage.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, 21.4.
yeah,
So it's definitely an issue. And again, for me, this is where we get firmly into the second round. Uh, for me, I think
yep,
this is
same.
a mid to late second round pick.
Hmm.
Um, I don't love him, but that's where my number three is. So I'm
I
going to
think
be
I
very
think
interested.
I think the problem is he is more scheme specific than even guys like Keenan or Corleone or Orange. Like he
Yeah.
has to be in a 4-3. Even like I think I wrote down. I think what did I write? I wrote down for him, Ed Oliver and Maurice Hurst. Like get him to the Bills, get him to the Browns, get him to one of those teams that just runs a true 4-3, and he can just shoot that gap.
Honestly, even the Browns, I wouldn't like not with Graham there.
Fair, and
Uh,
and with the guys they have, they don't need him. But just in terms of the
yeah,
that type of scheme is what I was talking about. But
yeah,
yeah,
and it's going to be tough. Just like I could definitely see him falling because
Niners would be another one.
it's just not a lot of teams that could use him.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so your number two is Caleb Banks. I'm
Yeah,
assuming. Okay, so I talked about
yeah.
him already. How much I didn't like him. So then why don't you talk about why you do like him?
So a lot of what you said is correct with Banks. Now I will say some of that is it was it is a guy where I like that you said you liked him more as a DN because that's where he started out. He was a 255-pound DN,
Hmm.
and now he's 329 pounds. And honestly, the build is pretty good.
That is
It's
true. He
nice, sloppy
carries it
build.
very well.
It's
Yeah.
yeah. And it's something where he has good length as well.
Hmm.
I think his arms are pretty long. I liked his activity with his hands. It wasn't always it wasn't consistently
Hmm.
hitting the right place with his hands. He wasn't consistently uh doing moves correctly, but he was consistently active with it. And I thought he had decent pop with it as well. He's a guy, I understand he's 329 pounds. I said I had three of these. He's one of them. I prefer him as a four eye.
Hmm. Yeah. If they can get him
I
down to 310, I'd be like, great.
yeah, and because last year he did play lighter
Hmm.
than the
Okay.
329. That
Yeah.
329 is a pre-spring practice weight.
Okay.
Like I think he will play closer to 320. Um,
Even that just seems too big. I'm just like, oh, we don't need that, my guy.
yeah, it's something where I definitely like him more playing out, and they're not going to do it a lot with him. They did lose a lot at the nose, so he could play some there as well. I think they'll move him around the line a lot. But I really just do like his hands and I like his athleticism. And that's what I'm betting on here. I think as much as I want him to improve as a pass rusher, I need him to improve as a run defender.
Hmm.
Um,
Yep.
I cannot have him be uh, pushed off the ball as much as he is in the
Yes.
run game
Yeah.
to be picked where I think he can be picked. I think he can be picked at the top of the second round,
Hmm.
but not if he's going to continue to be pushed off the ball in the run game. And maybe that's why they're trying to add the weight here is to improve him as a run defender. Uh, but I don't know, man.
I just
I
don't
don't know
think it
about
helps.
that. I think, like I said, I think I want him as a four eye. It's a lot of uh honestly, this is a weird comp. It's a lot of what I wanted the Bills to do with Greg Rousseau. Uh,
Okay.
I wanted them to put on the weight and get him up to more of that 290
Hmm.
range, uh, and
Another
play
one that
more
would
of a
be like
heavy-handed.
another one that would be similar to Carlos Dunlap then.
Yes, yeah, that's kind of what I wanted out of them with Rousseau.
Yeah.
But I think that's the kind of player I would prefer not going this way where he adds on more weight. Um, but I'll be interested to see uh, like watching the film, I don't check the weights before. I only check the weights when I'm putting everything in. So I
Hmm.
did not notice that he had gone up in weight, which is not something that I'm a big fan of. I would have much rather him even lost a little bit of weight from where he was last year, even though I thought he was well built and I would have been fine with him sticking at that same weight. But
Yeah.
again, this is just a bet on good athlete, long, uh, good hand usage in terms of activity and pop. Needs to improve in terms of strike placement, but it's definitely something that I like. And I thought he had some of the most active hands in the class, not necessarily the best, but some of
Yeah.
the most active.
Yeah. I like I said, like I like the ceiling, I like the flash plays. I just need to see more of it to be willing to buy in at that price. All right. So my number two is Lee Hunter from UCF. Previously of Auburn, now he's going to Texas Tech this upcoming year. Played
Okay, I
nose.
I
But
try I tried to get him in. He was like right
okay.
where I ended up. I watched a game of his, but I didn't
Mhm.
get enough to where I was comfortable with
Okay.
ranking him.
Okay. I liked him a lot more than I thought I would. I thought he was going to be in that range with the other nose tackles, but he at 6'4", 325, I thought he moved the best of all of those guys. Probably better mover than even Capehart. Um, not as good as the next guy, as the number one guy, obviously, but um, plays a very aggressive brand of football that's just like a bull in a china shop, just wrecking stuff everywhere. Um, Weirdly, can actually kind of turn the corner as a pass rusher. It was a very odd snap that I saw where he was 6'4", 325 and basically cornered as an end. And I was like, oh, that's you don't see that a lot. And he does this even more than Capehart. He is again a guy that actually knows how to use a bull rush and does it consistently and pretty well. Now, granted, he is playing in the Big 12. Some of the opponents are not as good, so him bench pressing a center every few snaps is maybe it's not that impressive. And he's staying in the Big 12, so we won't really know. But also, the only way I really saw him get moved in the run game was with gap scheme double teams, where he has to get, or you have to get two people on him, otherwise he is going to wreck whatever run scheme you're trying to send at him. He has enough athleticism to pursue backside and zone runs to make those a problem. Obviously, has enough strength to hold the point of attack and even get in the backfield a bit. Doesn't have a ton of really like pass rush moves other than kind of your bull rushing your arm over, but good strength, really heavy hands. Does get I guess the biggest problem I would say is he just gets a bit too high later in reps. He lets his pad level come up, which that kind of happens when you're a bigger nose. And he is a little bit versatile. I kind of likened him to Bobby Brown, the nose tackle of A&M, who was with the Rams. I think he's now with the Panthers, or I think he signed with the Panthers this offseason, where he's this big dude, and you're like, okay, he's just gonna be a nose. It's like, no, he actually has a little bit more than you would think. So, I liked him a lot. I would recommend you watch him. I think he's gonna be an older player like some of these guys, but I thought I think he could have declared after this year and probably been a day. I mean, it was a really deep class, so that might have been tough. But I could see him being an early day three. He could have been an early day 3 pick coming into last year's draft, or maybe even a day 2 pick. So Lee Hunter from UCF now at Texas Tech is my number 2 guy, and I liked him a lot.
Yeah, like I said, I only got to catch the one game, didn't get as much in on him as I wanted to, and would be comfortable with ranking him. But I was really impressed in that one game with the strength he displayed,
Mhm.
both in holding up in the run game and also in being able to bull rush there as
Yeah.
a pass rusher.
Yeah. See,
Um,
he's like the guy that I would say, like you were kind of talking about Keenan, where it's like I would actually be like very comfortable with leaving him on the field and passing downs because he can actually do some stuff. Probably him and Capehart are probably pretty much the only two that I would really feel comfortable with that. All right. So now chalk number 1, Peter Woods from Clemson, right?
Actually, supposed to be playing defensive tackle for once this
Finally.
year. It's a miracle.
Yeah. I just want to read some of his bio that from the Clemson website, which is crazy. So in high school, he helped his high school win 4 consecutive state championships in Alabama, including when he was playing on varsity as a freshman, playing end tackle. He finished his high school career with 260 tackles, 72 tackles for loss, and 29 and a half sacks. And I think he missed half of either his sophomore or junior year due to injury. Um, he was also like 260 pounds, 250 pounds in high school, and now he's up like 315 or something. Um,
Yep.
and he does, like you said, splits time between end and tackle, which is stupid, but whatever. I think there was a stat that he had like 7 TFLs and 2 sacks in one of the state championship games, which is absolutely insane. So why don't we, after all that, I'll let you kind of talk about his game in college.
Yeah, I mean, he's moving all over the place. It's not necessarily something that you love. I really did like him as a run defender. I thought,
Mm-hmm.
um, as an athlete, he isn't necessarily the most quick athlete, but I did think he was fairly explosive. I think he's going to be able to do well testing wise and
Mm-hmm.
most things except for the 40. I don't think he's going to be a burner, but
So
I
the
think
thing
a
that
lot.
the thing that I wrote was the change of direction isn't as great, especially reaccelerating
Yeah,
as he's turning or after he's turning. So that, but yeah, like the
I
short
think
area
he's going to
burst
do
is there.
great in jumps.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, but I did like his hand usage as well.
Mm-hmm.
I liked his pop. Honestly, one of my big things with him is going to be if he was going to be kick out more. Now he's been used as a 5 tech, used as a DN there. I think if your goal is to play him in a 3 down front as like a 4-eye, I worry a little bit about his length. That would be my only real concern. I
Mm-hmm.
definitely want him in a 4 down front playing as a 3 tech.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's just I don't think at the next level he has enough length to be playing out near the edge, whether
That's
that's in a
fair.
3 or a 4 down front. But honestly, it's a good player. This is a first round pick.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, this is my only first round grade in this
Same.
class. Um, I thought the effort was consistently there.
Mm-hmm.
I thought uh, the one big like you had to change the direction. My issue with him in terms of an athlete was also in his flexibility. I didn't think it was bad. I just thought it was average.
Okay.
Um,
I would probably need to go back and look for that, but I can believe it. Uh,
it's not it's definitely not a bad thing. It's
mm-hmm.
just I would lump it in with his weaknesses because of how
Yeah.
good of a player he is.
Right.
It's in across this class. I think his flexibility is average. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's not it's nothing bad. It's just like I have him flexibility wise right with all the other 3 techs. It's just I don't
Yeah.
necessarily think it's a with a guy like this. What you're looking for out of him is get more reps as an actual 3 tech because last year he got 188
Mm-hmm.
of his snaps were as an actual 3 tech or a 1 tech.
Yeah.
Um, No, yeah, as a 3 tech, and so it's just you know he got a few at nose there. He got some as a D end. And it's just he's all over the place, and
Yeah.
I want him to be more consistently playing on the interior because that's where he's going to be at the next level.
Yep. Yeah, I wrote that basically can play any alignment and be at least adequate. You probably don't want him as a 0 tech or a 7 tech, but he can, do it for a few plays here and there if you want to have a weird front to do something. Um, the other thing I wrote is that he is still putting things together, but he's definitely more than just an idea at this point. Like it is, we kind of talked about Bear Alexander. I kind of feel this way about Christian Miller, that there's stuff that needs to be put together. And Woods is that way, but he is definitely further along the path than those guys. And obviously has much better effort than a guy like Alexander. And I wrote, I think you mentioned this as well. But I think he's pretty underrated at 2-gapping and taking on the double teams in the run game. It's not necessarily something you want him doing all the time, but if he needs to, he can do it, which is good. He's not just the Durant where he's just the 1-gapping penetrator. Like he can really do pretty much almost anything you want on the defensive line. It's just a matter of what scheme are you running and how much can you put him in a situation where he can do what he does best, which I think you want to see him get his hand, like you said. I think the length is. I think it's a good observation from you about the possible lack of length. So you probably for him, you just want to see him get his hands more active. Which for him, this is a guy who's supremely physically talented. Like he's usually used to win. He is used to winning just with athleticism and strength, and developing that technique takes a little time. He's going into his junior year, and again, like you said, he's going to be playing normal defensive tackle finally for once. So maybe he can finally hone in on that instead of worrying how I have to learn all these different fronts and play all these weird different positions for no reason. So Peter Woods won for both of us. So let's jump into our superlatives for this class. I'm gonna start with the plant the flag. So guy that you feel like you're higher on than the consensus. Mine is Lee Hunter. Obviously, kind of you got a little taste of, but was a lot much higher for me than you.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
like I said, if I had to, like I would have probably had him right above Keenan if I had to rank him just off of the one game. But
yeah,
right in that area, like I don't think he was significant. Like I would have had if I had to play some off of a singular game, which I don't like to do, it would
yeah,
probably be in that like 3 to 5 range.
yeah.
I mean, not
I
3 to 5, 4 to
I
5.
I think when you watch him, like, and if you just compare him to Orange Corleone Keenan, I think you can. I think it's pretty easy to see. Okay, this guy has more than the other one, so that's why I have him a good bit higher. So, but he's gonna be my plant the flag. So, who is yours?
Thanks.
Okay, fair enough.
Pretty obvious. I have him at 2 in this class.
Hmm.
Have a second round grade on him. Um, I just like the upside there. I
Okay.
definitely think that if he puts it all together, he can end up as the number 2 guy throughout the entire cycle here.
Hmm.
It's just a matter of improving at the few things he needs to improve and get more consistent with his hands.
Yeah.
But now the fix one trait, for me, um, it's tough because there's a couple. A lot of these guys have just a glaring hole
Hmm.
in their game,
Yeah.
and so it's really tough to just pick one.
Yeah.
I
For
guess I would go with Zane Durant. Just I
tackling size.
I want him to have a little bit more. Yeah, I mean size is an easy one, but even at that size, I'm okay with that if he has a little
Yeah.
bit more strength.
Hmm. Yeah.
Either one, like I could take you either get him long enough to where I'm comfortable with him as like a 4i,
Hmm.
or you get him strong enough where I like him more early downs on the interior.
Yeah.
Either way works.
Mine is Rayshon Benny's burst and explosiveness. Just get it to like solid instead of mediocre, and
Yeah.
then we can talk about him being a decent NFL player. Um, Highest ceiling, I guess it's Peter Woods. Like it's kind of cheating, but it would be him or Bear Alexander, honestly. And those are both. We kind of talked about those both at length.
Okay. If we're not naming those guys,
Hmm.
James Smith from
Yeah,
Bama,
yeah. I mean, I didn't
like
watch him,
it's
so.
just a it's just a good athlete.
Hmm.
Like it's a little bit on the small side, but it's the same thing. You're just picking an athlete, former 5-star recruit
Hmm.
that just has all the traits in the world and just needs time to develop.
Yeah. All right.
Could also put on a little bit more weight,
Yeah.
but
All right. Highest floor, I have Demonte Capehart. It's a little higher than we usually pick for this player, but I think I'm higher than some people. He probably could might plant the flag as well, honestly. Um, but I feel like he just has enough power to stick around as a nose for a long time. Even if he doesn't really add a ton more as a pass rusher, I think he can, be a guy who just sticks it out as a nose for a bunch of different teams. So Demonte Capehart is my highest floor.
yeah, I went with Daryl Jackson Jr. It's a
Hmm.
guy who I think is just pretty solid across the board. No obvious strengths in his game, but I think he's well built. I think he's 337, but you don't. He looks more like he's in the 320s.
Hmm.
It's definitely a guy who has all the tools that you would want. Not an exceptional athlete, but a good enough athlete. And honestly, I just think he's going to stick as a rotational tackle in the league
Hmm.
for a while. I don't necessarily see him as a starter, but I think he's has a floor as a rotational player.
All right. Biggest gap between ceiling and floor. I guess because we didn't use him, I'm going to say Bear Alexander, which again is kind of cheating,
Yeah,
but I don't care.
yes.
Like it's really like you're either going to be a starting defensive tackle, not like a number one on a team, or you're not going to be in the league by the end of your rookie contract. So that's about as high and low as it can get. I don't know, honestly,
Yeah,
I don't really know what I guess I don't even really know what other one I would pick. I guess maybe Banks. You could pick Corleone, but that'd be kind of mean. So I guess my backup for that one would be Banks, just because if the consistency isn't there, then it's a problem.
yes, yeah, yeah. That I could definitely see that. Gosh, because it's definitely Bear
Yeah.
Alexander.
I mean, it's just fair. It
If
is.
it's not him, I mean, again, I already said him a little bit earlier. James Smith is another good one, just
Yeah.
because of how he is far away from where he needs to be, but he has enough time where I'm confident he will get there.
Yeah.
Grayson Halton, I guess I'll
I
say.
okay. So I watched him, and actually, I watched him today, and I feel like he is definitely poised to have a better year this year. Um, I just think he was kind of used in a weird way, like kind of just even like how often he was on the field and how often he came on and off. And I was like, I feel like he just can't get in a rhythm. He's still kind of a youngish player, like learning the position. And he was another guy where I was like, I wonder if he would actually be better as like a 4-3 defensive end instead of trying to play on the inside because I thought he was getting pushed around a lot in the run
Yes, I
game.
agree. My one of the big issues with him is he's not going to start again this year.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, that's a problem.
Uh, so I don't really know where that leaves him.
Yeah.
Like as far as everything I've seen, he's not going to start because
Okay.
Williams is back and Jackson is only a sophomore.
Okay.
So like they're not those two started last year. They're
Yeah.
both returners. So I from all I can see, he's not going to start. Now I saw a list that had him as a top 10 defensive tackle in college football this year. And
Yeah.
I
I
just
just no, nowhere near
it's
enough production. Especially like he for being 6'2", 285, he is just not as productive as a pass rusher as you want. Like nowhere
yes.
near productive enough, even from just a pressure standpoint. All right. So head scratcher. Um, I'm not gonna. I was gonna say Caleb Banks, but I feel like I kind of know what the problem is in terms of the consistency. So I'm gonna say Dominique Orange just because I'm still like a little unclear as to how I want to use him, what he's best at, and what he's worst at, and it's just a weird evaluation for him again within that scheme. So I'm gonna say Dominique Orange is my head scratcher.
Yeah, it's tough for me. I mean, kind of can go two ways. The one that I'm not really sure on the eval with is just it's tough because like I guess I could go Aaron Graves. I had him at 10. I'm
Mm.
even higher than you, but like just in terms of where he's at, I've seen lists that have him as a top 8 kind of guy in this class. In terms of the eval, it's a little bit odd just because you see traits
Hmm.
in certain areas not translate to his
Yeah.
run defense.
Hmm.
Like it's just I see traits as a pass rusher that then don't translate to run defense and vice versa. It's just a
Yeah.
very odd evaluation. So I
Yeah. That's a
guess
good
I
one
would go
too.
with them. But honestly, if you look at what the consensus is on this class, it's fairly like you could argue a couple guys a spot or two, but like with the consensus, it's like the one that you disagree with is Banks, just because he's consensus at
Yeah.
DT2
Yeah.
right now. But like it, most of these guys are in the right areas. It's just you might change the order up a little bit,
Mhm.
but
Yeah, I was gonna say even that. Like I knew Banks was gonna be higher probably for you, and I know he's higher in general. So, but I was like, but pretty much after that, from if you after those two guys, like it can be any one of like what 10 to 12 guys. So yeah. So these should be honestly these should be pretty easy. We kind of talked about them. Best true nose. I had Tim Keenan.
I did as well.
All right. Best three tech Zane Durant.
I did as well.
And then
Well,
I
it depends. If you think Caleb Banks is a three
oh
tech,
no, I don't.
eh, I think he's best as a 4i, so
Sure.
I didn't have him there. But
Yeah.
if you think I think he's a better player. Personally, I have him higher. But
Yeah, I
I
think
like
if
him at
I
4i.
originally had best 4i and I took it up, but I think we would both agree that that would probably
Yeah,
be where we'd go with Banks as the best 4i 5 tech defensive end type. He just
yeah.
needs to actually play there. Um, Most versatile. I'm gonna kind of cheat and say we can't say Peter Woods, mostly because I set him for highest ceiling, and I'm trying to like make these one offs so we don't just have one guy for all of them because especially in a class like this, it would be Peter Woods for a ton of these. So I put Kristen Miller, who again I know you're not as high on, but I really liked his run defense on the inside. I this again the first step and the initial strike are there. When he's pass rushing and even when he's like pass rushing as a 3 tech or a 4i or a 5, and I'm just thinking, okay, if we can add a pass rush move or translate some of these physical skills into an actual pass rushing profile, we could have a very special defensive tackle on our hands. Just it has to happen. Which that's kind of he is my Banks, I guess. Like considering how you like Banks more, I think Miller needs to again become more consistent. I just liked the flashes more, and I thought I saw them more consistently.
In terms of most versatile, if you take Woods off the board, I don't want to say Banks again because we just talked about him a lot.
Mm,
I'm going to go with Daryl Jackson Jr. Honestly, I'll go with
okay.
him. I think he has the size uh I to play as a one tech and pass, and I would prefer him in pass rush situations only to be a one tech, but he has the size. I do worry a little bit about his strength handling double teams, but I
Hmm.
think he can do it in a pinch. I think he's a pretty solid rotational three tech, and I think if you're a three down front, I think he could play 4i, even though I definitely prefer him as a three tech. I think if you're taking the top guys off the board and you're looking for a later round guy that has some versatility, that's who I would go with. Again, I just wanted to go a little bit down the board more
Yeah.
to the day three type guys, and I think of the day three guys, I like his versatility the best.
Yeah, that's fair one. I think the other part of this class is there's a lot of guys who like didn't play a ton at their previous spots. Well, I would say there's two families. There's like guys who didn't play a ton of the previous spots and are transferring somewhere else, and they're probably going to play a lot more. So it'll be interesting to see if they can have a big year, and that'll help them rise up. Or there's also a lot of guys who are transferring up from smaller schools, FCS schools, Group of 5 schools to big schools. But I think you have a lot of those guys that are going to be, in their final year. So it's like, okay, if they have a big year, then they could maybe sneak into this probably not the top 10, but maybe the top 15. And then, then we start seeing the depth of the class again. Probably depth of the class is not going to be in the first 2 rounds, or even the first 3 rounds, but you can see start to backfill in the third, fourth rounds where you start seeing some guys who, again, are probably not going to be starters, but they can be valuable role players that can stick on a roster, uh, fill a role, do something important, and then maybe they can develop into more well-rounded players that become starters. Unlikely, but possible.
Yeah, this class is just a lot of okay players.
And then Peter Woods.
I'll be interested to see. I think a lot of the upside comes from these younger guys that were stuck behind uh,
Hmm.
people that came
Yes.
out. So, like Ohio State has two new guys. Be
Hmm.
interested to see what they do. I believe they're both draft eligible. Uh, I know at least McDonald is, but I thought both of them were. Um,
Hmm.
I'll be interested to see how they do. I'll be interested to see how outside of Keenan. Like I watched Smith, but even then, a lot of the other guys in that Bama front haven't gotten a ton of reps.
Yeah,
Same
and
with
like
Georgia.
a guy like LT Overton, who's more of an edge
Yeah,
for Bama, but he's a big dude who's probably gonna play that 4i5 type. We're gonna evaluate him as an edge. Excuse me, for our purposes. So he's a guy that definitely
yeah,
could have been. We could have done him here, and he probably would have been in the 1 or 2 spot.
yeah. It's just like I said, a lot of the upside I think is with the guys that are coming into starting for the first time.
Yeah.
Um, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Now, the one I am actually interested in is Lee Hunter's replacement at UCF. Uh, I assume John Walker is going to be the starter there. Um, I'm going to be very interested to see how that works out. I know he's, from what I remember, he's the highest ranked recruit in UCF history.
Hmm.
Um, he did not play at all last year. I don't really know
Hmm.
what happened, but if you look at his snap count, there is absolutely nothing last year. I don't know if he was hurt.
That's weird.
Because I just remember him as a recruit. But I'll be very interested. Yeah, because he played a little bit. Yeah, he played a lot in 2023 as a true freshman, and then did not play at all last year. So I think there must have been hurt or something. But I'll be interested to see he's the replacement there for Hunter. That's a guy who I think has a lot of upside as just a little experience, but replacing one of those guys that we talk about that they're leaving. So I'll be interested to see how he does as a upside swing there. And like I said, a lot of these guys that I'm interested in upside swings are just first time starters.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so that's gonna do it for us. We'll be back in the nearish future. This was a bit of a longer hiatus. I was on vacation for a bit, so had to take some more time to get everything done. But we'll try to be back in the next few weeks, looking at another position. Probably stick on defense this time. We've done 2 offense. We'll try to get 2 defense ones. You can follow me at Mitchell T Wolfe on Twitter, on Blue Sky. That's really the only place I post, so you can check me out there.
Yep, and you can get me at Daniel R. Garrett. I only do Twitter. I don't have time for anything else. Just that hellscape.
Alrighty, we'll talk to you guys next time.